Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor.
Yo, what's going on? It's Leon Slater, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor on the Wrestling Rewind. You get me?
I'm Tom Hannafin from TNA Wrestling. You're listening to the Wrestling Rewind.
Come to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello folks, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Sami Zayn has shocked the world, but not really, because we kind of all knew it was coming. Sami Zayn is the WWE Champion. SummerSlam is starting to take shape, and honestly, so much wrestling happened this week. Even if you want to, I believe there was an NXT pay-per-view that nobody watched because everyone was caught up with everything else. But even still, welcome to another edition here of the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darragh O'Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. I'm actually okay with Sami winning the title. I'm sure we will talk.
Yeah, but Christopher, straight off the bat, right? We were talking on your show after the pay-per-view, and I encourage everyone to check that out because I had a lot of fun. Radio listeners, there's a bit more language than we're used to. It was nice to be able to get that out because of how much I hate Sami Zayn and Cody. But the thing about it, I had a lot of fun. I encourage everyone to check that out. That's why there's no review as such on our channel, because we already did it. And go over and check it out. Christopher, how can people check that out on your side? Because I want people to hear that.
You can go to my channel. It's the Real Zodiac Productions, or you can just search the Josh Zodiac Podcast, either on YouTube or on Spotify. You can check out that review of Night of Champions with myself, my brother, the Psycho Nerd, and of course, Mr. Darragh O'Connor. We all have our own perspectives on the show we had last weekend.
No, it was super fun. It was nice to do the post shows after they air here. Those Middle Eastern shows really do have a nice knock-on effect of that, like on at 6 p.m. on a Saturday. It is quite lovely. But yeah, no, definitely do check that out. We break it down in a lot of detail, so we're not going to do that on this show. But we are going to talk about the biggest talking point here, which is the crowning of Sami Zayn as the WWE Champion. And look, that's weird to say. It's not unexpected. Some people say it was emotional, and it had a huge reaction. Now look, some people are very happy with this, some people aren't. Val Venus posted about it, and it was hilarious. That guy is very disturbed, and I don't agree with 99% of what he says, but it was pretty funny to see him crash out completely on this Sami Zayn thing. And for me, it's like, I just don't like Sami Zayn. Not personally, I'm not against the guy, but as a performer, he doesn't do anything for me. But he is better. I said this on your show. I've cleaned it up a bit for this radio station, but I was happy that Cody lost, but I'm still annoyed that Sami Zayn is the champion. You know, and I do believe the only reason he was crowned champion is because they were in Saudi Arabia. And yeah, look, again, can we just talk about this? It's weird that Sami Zayn was the hometown hero when he's half Canadian and half Syrian, or he's Canadian but of Syrian descent. And it's like, that's nowhere near Saudi Arabia. So that was a weird call from Michael Cole, but I think that's what they were doing. They were trying to curry favor with that demographic, because obviously there's so much money coming from Saudi Arabia that they're like, look, until we're able to train up a Saudi Arabian superstar, Sami Zayn is the best we're getting. And look, he did make history as the first Muslim WWE champion. He's, obviously super over in that region. He is the face of that side of WWE. And I said on the show, every time you watch those Crown Jewel shows, they focus on Sami Zayn. So, I mean, great for them. That's awesome. But I just don't think Sami looks like a WWE champion. And I know it's silly to say, and some people are probably like, what are you talking about? They call it the airport test, and I was listening to Stevie Richards talk about this on his podcast. And apparently, like, if you walk through an airport and you're like, okay, he looks like a champion or has the wow factor. Sami Zayn looks like a fan. He looks like just a dude who goes to the shows. And I just can't take the man seriously. It's the opposite of Cody Rhodes, where it's like, oh, go away, you're too much. But like, you see John Cena, and I can't believe I'm doing this. As somebody who used to boo John Cena, this is deeply ironic. But you see John Cena, you see Sami Zayn. One's a star, one's not. What do you think about this? Am I alone here? Because I want to know if I'm just completely off base.
You're not. I mean, me personally, and it's, which is the lesser of evils here. It's like, okay, we're out of the Cody coma.
Out of the Cody coma.
But now we're in the Sami sleeper hold. So, it's and I literally just thought of that before I said it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm the believer in that if you think somebody has the potential to be a good champion, give them the title, see what they can do with it. What's the worst that could happen? We did it with Jey Uso. Mm-hmm. We all saw what happened there. Mm-hmm. He was so over with the crowd. He got the title. It didn't happen the way they wanted it to. And then they just threw it right back on to Gunther. Same thing here. You take it off of Cody. Now, the real question is Sami going to be a transition champ? I'm just kind of reaching out there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I just say let Sami run with it, see what he can do with it.
Yeah, and I do. There are some rumblings that, and it doesn't seem too off base. Obviously, we'll find out later on tonight. But Brock could just come out, kill Sami, and then there's a championship match with Oba Femi. We'll touch on that in a second. I just want to kind of put that out there. But I do believe, give Sami a shot. I mean, it's something different. Like, I wasn't against it because Sami Zayn won it. I just don't like him, But I went from not liking Cody to not liking Sami. So nothing really changed. But I think Sami is a better wrestler than Cody. He seems to connect more with the fans. Like, people just do not want to see Cody Rhodes. Some people do want to see Sami Zayn. And like, taking away what I said there about the Saudi Arabian thing, that's one aspect of it. But Sami has been over with the fan base, a lot of the fan base, for a very long time. So it makes sense to give him the title. The one thing I wish they didn't do, because I said this on your show, but it did take me out of it completely. As soon as they were like, this is his 10th opportunity, it's like, if he didn't win at that point, it's like, this guy is just a loser. Like, he had to win it. It's kind of, AEW did this all the time where they're like, this is your last chance ever, or you're not winning the title. And they did that this week now with if Kenny Omega. Sorry, not Kenny Omega. Who was it? MJF. No, it was.
It was Kenny.
Yeah,
it was Kenny Omega.
It was Kenny Omega and MJF, and it's like, well, of course he's going to win because that's going to be your main event for Wembley, right? It made all the sense in the world, but they did kind of telegraph it, and this does happen. But that is the one thing. As soon as I heard that from Michael Cole, I was like, okay, well, Sami's obviously winning here. And obviously him coming out in the traditional garb and all that kind of stuff, it's like, if he doesn't win here, there will be consequences.
Yeah.
It might not just be from the people who are literally ponying up billions of dollars, but it will be damage to Sami that he won't recover from. Because you have now built him up that he can't get this job done. But I did kind of like the story where it's like, okay, now let's see what he can do. The only thing about Sami Zayn, like, to put a different angle on this, he's only ever really been interesting when he's there with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is injured, like, legitimately, he probably will. I think he's like semi-retired now at this point. But like, how does a Sami Zayn exist without a Kevin Owens? That's my question to you.
He did it with the Bloodline, though, when he joined as the honorary Uso. So, and there's a lot of Bloodline fans out there that, oh, he finally won one for the Tribal Chief. I'm like, no, don't even go down that road, because that's not something, at least not yet, that Roman wanted, So, I mean, I agree, but I disagree. And funny you say that Kevin Owens was actually at the NXT show, from what I understand.
Right.
But again, yeah, the Kevin Owens, the biggest feuds he's had has been with Kevin Owens and of course with Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two aspects, and that differs from anybody that Cody's feuded with, or John Cena, or Brock, or whoever. You can't. There needs to be more than two sides of the coin. You need to be more of like a gaming die. You got to have more different sides. That way, okay, this week it's going to be Cody. Okay, this time it's going to be AJ Styles. You need to have some diversity in your feuds with the people you're going up against. And the biggest takeaway I take from Sami winning this title is that he pinned Cody, not Gunther. Mm-hmm. So now Cody cannot say, "Oh, you didn't beat me, you didn't pin me." No, he pinned him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Cody can, if this is going to be the seeds for the Cody heel turn, I'm all for it. But at the same time, we all know he's going to take some time off. So
yeah. So do you think?
So for that.
So I think Sami will be a transitional champion here, right?
I do too.
But what would you rather? Would you rather Brock comes in and kills him, and that's your title match for SummerSlam? Which, again, Oba's going to win that match. There's nothing surer. So you have an Oba Femi title run, which again is pretty cool. It does the same thing. It gets him over. It gets someone new. It refreshes the top of the card. Or do you want Sami to hold it true? Because Sami doesn't have a dance partner for SummerSlam, which is a big red card or big red flag in and of itself. Because it's like the second biggest show of the year, your WWE champion, not even your world champion, has nothing to do. So,
and we don't want to see Cody versus Sami again. I mean, I'm over it. Move away from that. It needs to go away. Now, if it's gonna go the way that I mentioned before, I don't say make it a squash, but definitely make it look like Sami is actually putting up a bit of a fight, or Brock is kind of playing with his food a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just, oh yeah, I know I can beat you, but I'm gonna see what you can do before I totally put you away. And
you don't want a Kofi Kingston situation. I don't think anyone benefits from that.
Because that literally destroyed everything he put forward to get that title in the matter of seconds. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that. You want to give him at least a 5-minute match. At least 5. Do you want more? You want to do less? A little bit less? That's fine. At the end of the day, you need to make Sami look like because he took on Gunther and Cody in a triple threat match and was successful. That has some meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Especially since Sami beat Gunther for the IC title when he had that 666-day reign on the Intercontinental side.
That's true.
So it's like, make him look strong. Make him look like he deserved to be there. When Kofi got squashed by Kofi, it just pretty much was like, yeah, you didn't deserve to be there. We're going to take it off of you within 10 seconds. Nice knowing you. So I'm not a fan of squash matches in title match. They should not be a squash match in a title match. 0.
I really hope we don't get Cody versus Sami. I also really hope we don't get Cody versus Gunther, because that's a feud they've already done that feud. We've already seen the payoff. We know that Sami can beat him. If they are going to do a Brock title match, which I think they're doing a Saturday night's main event beforehand, right? Before SummerSlam?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's when you do it. That's when you do the passing title transition, I suppose. You book this the way Undertaker was booked against Jeff Hardy in that amazing hardcore match. Even make it a hardcore match where our Bloodlines rules match or whatever, where Sami does everything he can, but he's just overcome by the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I agree. If you do anything else, it absolutely kills everything that Sami Zayn has, and it means that he's no good. He's damaged goods at that point. He goes back to the mid card, and he never extends beyond that because you're never going to take it seriously. You're like, you were beating a 5 minute or this 4 minute squats match or something like that. You put him in a 5 to 10 minute match where Brock actually beats him, but it's a good, well fought match. You add a new layer to Sami Zayn. He's not just a joke. He wasn't just a fluke. He was a fighting champion who was bested by the beast rather than squashed by the beast. They're very different things. And then when Oba wins the title, you then have Sami going, well, look, I couldn't beat Brock, but I can beat you. that's an inbuilt feud. I think it's quite interesting. They can go into ride that into the summer, or ride that into the end of the summer, into the winter. I just hope they do something like that, but it's WWE. You never really know what they're going to do. I just do not want Jey Uso in the world title picture or the WWE title picture. If they are going to, like, that would be the worst SummerSlam match. Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso. Obviously, Jey Uso is not going to win. No one's going to care. It's wasting the opportunity. Have it on Raw. Have it somewhere else, but not on the main show for sure. Let's talk about the King of the Ring winners. So we talked a little bit about Oba Femi. I don't think anyone was really shocked by this. This was very, very obvious, but
I was actually a little shocked by it. I really thought they were going to go the Jey Uso way. I really did. He was my pick to win. He was no. Let me retract a little bit here. I picked him because I thought it was the way they were going to go, not who I really thought I wanted to win. I wanted Oba to win. It's like, I've seen enough WWE over the years to know that they're going to take the safe route. Okay, we're going to give it to Jey. And when Oba pinned him clean in the middle of the ring, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on board. That's not. I am not saying I'm not an Oba fan. I am on that train like everybody else. I just thought they were going to take the whole Jey Uso route and do that. That's where my mindset was. And when Oba won, I'm like, okay, even more possibilities open up now because there are so many stories they can tell leading up into SummerSlam.
yeah. But what's interesting as well is like they have this new setting. But the thing that shocked me is that I honestly was like, well, they're going to give this to Oba and then have him win the title. And then the very next night, they're like, well, no, it's a Hell in a Cell with Brock Lesnar for no real reason. How do you square that circle?
I mean, I originally was hoping that they would do a number one contender match versus career between Oba and Brock. And then whoever won that match, obviously be Oba, would go on to take on either Sami or whoever the champion was. We didn't know, obviously. Whoever the champion was on SmackDown versus the champion on Raw. That's the route I was hoping they're going to go. And I'm kind of still have a little bit of hope they're going to do that, but I've not given up hope on that. But, there's me watching AEW for the first time and seeing how different the other side lives. It's becoming so predictable now that it's become kind of annoying that what WWE is doing. They're not taking risks. There's no real shock factor anymore, and that kind of takes away a lot of the fun in watching professional wrestling.
Here's the thing, though. I think they went against hype here. I would agree. Usually, it is very, very safe. It is very, very boring and predictable, and that's why I don't want to get too excited about SummerSlam just yet because they can just be like, well, here you go, Cody wins. Yeah. But Raw for me made this a whole different kettle of fish. The fact that they were like, okay, we're going to do Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns one more time.
Yep.
I was like, that's interesting. I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that to happen. Okay, that's an interesting night 2 main event. Oba Femi discarding a WWE title win to go Hell in a Cell with Brock Lesnar is also very unexpected. So we went from a situation where SummerSlam really looked super predictable to kind of having that twist that we actually haven't seen in a while. Last year's SummerSlam, while it was a good show, I actually watched it there last week on TV for the first time. Obviously, I was there, but I didn't watch it on TV. I just didn't get around to it. And that was a very, very predictable show. Night 1 was horrendous, except for the last match. And night 2 was actually quite good. But everybody knew Cena was losing. Everybody knew. Brock Lesnar returned. We didn't expect that. And now this time around, it's like, whoa, okay. I'm more intrigued to see what's going on here. So I would say WWE, they do tend to play it safer than not, but whatever happened here, over the past week, it's fundamentally changed the landscape of WWE, and I don't think it's worth discount. Ironically, AEW, I think, have gone down the, well, of course you were going to do that. Everybody knew Will Ospreay is going to get the title at Wembley.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, as much as I want to see as much as I like Kenny Omega, I was very frustrated with that. So I would say both companies are equally bad at doing it. It's just weird to see AEW becoming more like WWE as they progress. It's a very strange thing to see. I never thought I would see that, but yeah, Night of Champions. Like, some people are saying it was a really, really bad show. I don't think that. I mean, we gave it a pretty good grade on your show. We were like, why do you think some people didn't like it?
I don't know. I think the predictability of everything has become full circle. And again, if you go down the match card, Liv Morgan did not need to be in the Queen of the Ring tournament.
No.
And I will die on that hill. She did not need to be there. But here's my thing. I'm starting to think that they did that to start seeing the crumbling of the Judgment Day, because we've been seeing it. You saw it more on Raw. We saw more of it on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that we're going to see by the end of the year, if not before, that Judgment Day faction is going to implode. And that'll be the end of that. And I'm just annoyed that Liv has had the title for quite some time and she's had zero defenses. And again, that's booking. That's not her fault. We saw the same thing with Jade earlier in this year and last year as well, where she had the title, just never defended it. And I'm like, that's just lazy booking. If you're going to cut promos saying that you're that person and you're that person, but you have zero defenses, you have no room to talk. Zero. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of the people that didn't like the show, I guess they wanted it to go a different way. And it didn't go the way they wanted it to. So I didn't like it. It was horrible. And no, it wasn't horrible. It was a great show. The exception, and I think there was one match on that card that I thought didn't need to be there, and that was the Trick Williams-Ricky Saints match. You could have done that on SmackDown. That's fine. But it is what it is. That was the only match that I think we agreed, for the most part, that it just didn't hit the way that people wanted it to.
What's the most disappointing part of the whole show? It really was.
But to be fair, Ricky Saints is still new on the main roster. He hasn't found his footing yet. Trick Williams has been there for a minute, so he's already found his footing. He's got the lemon pepper steppers doing what he does. Same thing you could say about Carmelo Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Saints has the potential to be a great star. He just hasn't found his footing yet. So let him cook, let him do what he does. But again, I felt like that out of all the matches that we had, that was the one that could have been on SmackDown. Even the Tiffany Jade match, that's setting up Jade versus Charlotte at SummerSlam. It told a story. It was there. I'm okay with that.
I am too. I think this shakeup that we've seen, it is unexpected from WWE. We went from a show that was, honestly enjoyable but very predictable to not at all. So, I'm willing to let this cook for about a month or so. We'll see what happens, and then we'll kind of make that decision. I don't think anyone was going Sami Zayn is going to be your champion. Oba and Brock are going to be in Hell in a Cell match. And you know what? It's funny because I think like a lot of this. Can I just actually, before we move on, I actually like that Hell in a Cell is a concept again rather than a pay-per-view, because like it had so much impact to be like, oh, these guys hate each other so much that the rubber match has to be in a Hell in a Cell. Brock Lesnar has history, very good history in Hell in a Cell. Oba's never been in one. It adds this new layer going, oh, as JR used to say, it shortens lives, shortens careers, but makes stars. And it's going to be a war, an absolute war. And it really does kind of go to that there are certain things in wrestling that need to be preserved. And match types as a match type for a feud makes way more sense than match type just to have. I will say, look, Lockdown's a little bit different. I think a pay-per-view, albeit cage matches with Lead Lockdown, is fun. War Games is kind of the same, where it's like, yeah, look, it's November, it's time for War Games. But that's different, you know. It is the gimmick kind of saves itself. But something like Hell in a Cell, where it has to have a certain level of violence, people have to bleed, they have to really, it has to be a war, and otherwise it's just matching a cell or matching a cage that you can't really see that well. It just doesn't have that same impact, you know. So I'm glad that it was brought back. I really, really like that segment. I think WWE were right, you know, and I think this is where we might see the shift. Some people have said that WWE is, you know, and look, we've said it too, that it's boring and that they can't surprise us. But this week, I think they really did, and I just wanted to get them. So look, TNA had their biggest show, the second biggest show of the year, but definitely one of the biggest shows of the calendar year. Again, last week you had AJ Francis on it.
Yes.
You haven't checked that out. He's a good interview. I was impressed with his Slammiversary appearance. He always does perform really well at that show. He calls himself Mr. Slammiversary, which is fun. Look, I know some people had some had some negative stuff on this. There has been some backstage shakeups, of course. More news came out about Tommy Dreamer. You guys can check that out on your own time. Maybe as to why he got let go. I still think TNA are in a period of stabilization and a period of change. And, you know, look, this show wasn't what everybody wanted, but personally, I think it did deliver. Obviously not all the matches. I would argue no pay-per-view has that, but for me, if you're going to watch any of these matches, the ones to watch were the main event, Mike Santana and Nick Nemeth. They just absolutely barn burner. The X Division Ultimate X match, that is TNA, and then of course the Hardy Boys retaining or capturing the TNA World Tag Team Championships in a fatal 4-way ladder match. I just love ladder matches. I don't know what it is. I think ladder matches are just great. The Hardys are still brilliant. The crowd were super into it. Look, if you're not a TNA fan, fair enough. I would still urge you to check out those two matches in particular. It's a fun show. It's not super long, but definitely a 4-way ladder match and then the Ultimate X. That's all you really need. It provided the spectacle that I want. I think TNA, again, it felt like a classic TNA show, like one you'd see back in the Asylum. Very welcoming to new fans as well. So I would say, look, find out on YouTube, go your way to check it out, because those two matches, totally worth your time. The whole show is. I was shocked that some people were negative about this. Don't really understand why. Maybe they don't like Nick Nemeth, maybe they don't like Mike Santana. Again, I can get that. I can understand why. But the fact that these two matches were there, come on. Unreal. The Hardys are doing some of the best work of their career, which is wild to say. I say Mustafa Ali is an interesting star, because I didn't really see him as that much before he got into TNA, but he's managed to craft this interesting character that is so familiar yet so different. And the fact you have like an X Division guy doing it is pretty neat. You know, like the X Division allows different guys to really shine, because it's not really about how big you are. It's more like the talent is there. It's an incubator for exploring different elements, and that's what TNA has always really done. It's built guys who weren't fully there or traditionally couldn't be there. So yeah, I'm going to go back and have a look at that match, because it wasn't the one I was keeping my eye out for, but the other ones definitely were. Let's move on here and talk about the final show of the year, or the final show of the week, which, look, that's not putting it down. There was a lot of shows. Will Ospreay punched his ticket with the Owen Hart final. Mercedes Moné retained. Kenny Omega beat Zack Sabre Jr. in my favorite match of the night. Team Briscoe versus Team Jet got the win over Team MJF. Cope and Christian retain, and your surprise return is Jay White. Now, what's interesting about Jay White is I was wondering where this guy was. I think a lot of people were. He came out with a lot of fanfare. and then really didn't do that much. So do you think things are going to be a little bit different here for Jay White? Because obviously he's helping Cope and Christian, or Edge and Christian. So that was a weird role I didn't expect him to be in. But now with the Bullet Club kind of being over, he kind of has to find a new crew to hang around with. What did you think about this?
The show in general was incredible. Now, we did review this on my podcast as well. My brother and I did that. The consensus was that, and this was my second AEW pay-per-view, this was his first. And my brother has been very, wrestling, he's just not, he has a love for wrestling, but it's been kind of lost. I introduced him to AEW again, and that fire has been relit, and he is super happy that we're doing AEW shows.
Mm-hmm.
It was a better show than Night of Champions, but then I think that's also because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know anything. We didn't know who Jay White was. We didn't know who the Bang Bang Club was. Of course, we know who Cope and Cage are. I mean, of course, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot going on that we were. And in the review, I even tell them, like, disclaimer: we don't know jack about what's going on. So our review, our take is going to be a little bit different than the hardcore fans. So bear with us, because we'll get there. We'll catch up to you guys. It'll take a while to get there. But again, I do feel like it was the better show of the two that I got to watch. Night of Champions was good. Forbidden Door was better. My only complaint, and it's maybe a small one, or maybe a big one, but I didn't think Mercedes Moné should have won. I think Maya Young, or whatever her name is, I forget what her name is, she should have won that match.
Maya World.
There you go, Maya World. I felt she should have won over Mercedes, because Mercedes won it last year. Give it to somebody else.
No, here's the thing. I mean, look, even if you're not an AEW fan, the pay-per-views always deliver. Like, as I said, if you like wrestling at all, AEW is the company to watch for sure. I mean, my problem again with AEW, it does not the wrestling. Like, you can clearly just watch the shows and enjoy them, and I do. There's just certain guys there who I just don't click with. MGF being the big one. I mean, that main event I just had no interest in. None of the guys there did it for me. But everyone else, and obviously Will Ospreay as well, I don't care to see him at all. But even that being said, there was a lot in this show for me, as somebody who is the tangential fan of AEW, or covers it obviously for the podcast. But I love Jay White. I was so great to see him back. It's been so long. The Kenny Omega Zack Sabre Jr. match is the match of the entire weekend for me, because Zack Sabre Jr. is an absolute legend. Kenny Omega is genuinely one of the best to ever do it. And they had just an absolutely phenomenal match. Technical masterpiece with psychology, which is the one thing that Will Ospreay still doesn't understand. That makes it very annoying to watch him. And genuinely two of the best in-ring wrestlers today in Omega and Zack Sabre Jr. But what I love about Forbidden Door specifically is the matches aren't similar to anything else. It has its own identity. And all credit to Tony Khan on that, because they have something here that could exist in other companies. But it is realized in AEW on this night, where you have stars that you normally won't see, talents from around the world. The only thing that ironically lets Forbidden Door down every year is when they do AEW stuff on it. And I think that was a dig. I'm just like, I want more dream matches. For me, Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, that's not a dream match. That's a pattern break for me. But Omega Zack Sabre Jr., hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping as this kind of goes forward, we get more of those actual dream matches. And that's kind of like, look, even if it's older talent, come on back. Give them a bunch of money. Get them to go out, and that's where you should have it. They should just be, Forbidden Door should be an exhibition night, where everything else that happens doesn't really matter. It doesn't. I think that's what holds it back. They're going for AEW titles. They're furthering AEW feuds. When that doesn't matter, that's not why you watch Forbidden Door. You watch Forbidden Door because, and look, again, I could be wrong on this. for me, they did it last year as well, and it was the one part of the show that I just lost interest in. I actually fell asleep because I didn't care. I was there. I was just like passed out. I was like, I just could not care less. I think where this show really, really gets its juice from, and why I like to watch Forbidden Door, and why I enjoy Forbidden Door, is because I know the talent there is going. You're not going to see this. It's not going to be an episode of Dynamite. It's not going to be a pay-per-view that they're doing a couple of months later. It's going to be one night only. We have this star from this company going against this guy from AEW, and whatever happens, happens. I think that's the magic, and that's the one criticism I will have about Forbidden Door. If you're going to do Forbidden Door, do Forbidden Door. Make it non-canon. Doesn't matter. You can have you can make a count in the ranking system if you want, but it's more just about having these guys who you never would see before. And I think that's the safe way to do it. Not safe way to do it, sorry. I think that's the successful way to really hook people, because then you have people who don't watch AEW going, ooh, but we have this person versus this person. I wonder who could win. It's just, it's so basic and so simple. And for me, every year, I think AEW sacrifice some of the audience by having, and on that point, Mercedes Money, the way she does it, she doesn't play it safe. And a big credit to her. She always goes against a wrestler from a different federation. Last year, it was Ring of Honor. That was one of the matches of the night. Now, I know Ring of Honor is owned by AEW, but still, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, we had a number one contender match on Dynamite. Now you're going against her. It's like, well, I could see that anytime, but I can't see you going against the women's champion in Ring of Honor. So if they are going to do it, I think they need to lean more into it. And it goes back to even when I was a kid. I'll never forget when Triple H was gone against Taz for the ECW title on SmackDown. That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, because it was like, wait, I'd never see Triple H go against Taz for an ECW title. That's unique. Yeah. And I think that mindset is how you book something like this. Take things that should not be together or would never have the opportunity to be together and present it to the world as an event. But still, that's what it is. And I don't think they go far enough. Like, look, cards on the table. AEW had the best wrestling, the best wrestling quality. Some people for Ospreay, that's going to be the match of the year, right? He's going to be the wrestler of the year for a lot of people. But I think they're leaving money on the table here. If you're able to get in, just say you work it out with let's just go mad. Say you work it out with WWE. Roman Reigns versus Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega.
Whoa.
There's nobody who wouldn't watch that.
No.
There's nobody who wouldn't watch that, right? And obviously that's never going to happen, or it could happen, or whatever. The point is, that's the mindset that they should be going in with. If I'm booking Forbidden Door, it should actually be company versus company to produce the best card that happens every year. And that's how I would do it. I don't think they go far enough. Now, look, there's loads of reasons why they can't. Contracts, rights, petty feuds, other nonsense.
Who goes over?
Who goes?
Another.
That's probably a big one as well. But at the same time, it's like, that's what they should be working towards. And, if I was Tony Khan, I would be going, right, let's really make this an attraction where anyone who is just a wrestling fan can enjoy it. AEW has that more than any other company. I will be honest with you. But if you're going to call it Forbidden Door, really push that envelope out. And that's my hope for next year with them. But still, again, look, if you're looking for the best wrestling show of the night or the weekend, that's your one. Forbidden AEW is always going to win. It just is. I thought it was a really good show. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot for me as well. So yeah, man. I mean, I think you're on the right track there. Like, WWE is very predictable. TNA, I'm always going to love it and prefer, because it is, it is my one. But when we get a weekend like that, we're eating well. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. What do you think?
I agree, and you said it yourself. You know, you're more partial to TNA, and with me growing up with WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, you know, I look at my relationship with WWE as just being in a very toxic relationship. I should leave, but I keep coming back because they say, "I'm sorry. Here's some treats. Here's some snacks. I'm so sorry." And we come back, and it's the same stuff all over again, and you know, then that's part of the reason why I've been branching out to other promotions. I'm like, you know what? Let me see what else is out there, because if you're going to call yourself a wrestling fan, which I pride myself on being a fan of wrestling, you probably should look at other promotions because there's more than one out there. There's a lot of wrestling in the world. Have it be WWE, TNA, NXT, AEW, New Japan, Stardom, Ring of Honor, whatever, and I'm just naming the ones that I know. There's probably a way more than that, not including local promotions that we have here where I'm at. You know, you shouldn't limit yourself to just one.
No, and I think that's a very strong. I think that's a strong statement as well, and that's why the tribalism I think is silly, because it's like, oh, I won't watch this page because I don't. It's like, why? That's like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, the more wrestling, the better it is because you get to pick from it. This weekend was a buffet that kind of had a bit of everything. You had your moments from WWE, you had your pure wrestling from AEW, and then in TNA you had your overachievement spectacle, right? And every company, I think, this weekend showed what they did the best. WWE put out their shocking moments. Sami Zayn winning, going into Raw, the announcement of Hell in a Cell. AEW put together a phenomenal card, did a phenomenal job. You got your pure wrestling. And then TNA there being like, hey, we're the strong number 3 here. Still kicking ass. And that's without even, as I said, without looking into what's going on in New Japan, what's going on in Stardom, what's going on in AAA. There's all these different things. And again, I just think tribalism is just silly for that because you go in with the blinkers and the blinders and you cut yourself off from it. Now, again, I know, and I don't, taste is fine. Again, I personally don't like a lot of things that AEW does, but that's limited to like 4 people. MGF, Will Ospreay, and like a few others. That's it. They just don't do anything for me. But I can sit down and enjoy that show. And every time I've gone to AEW shows, thank you to AEW for providing that opportunity. We were treated super well. The show was fantastic. And everyone went home happy. You know, a lot of smiling faces and no one was upset. WWE, on the other hand, it's a mixed bag. You're either going to get a big moment or you're not. I've seen a lot of people be more upset leaving WWE shows than they ever did in AEW shows. I will be very honest with you. And same with TNA. I've never seen people leave TNA shows unhappy. So, you know, if you were just limiting yourself to be a WWE fan, as you said, it's like a toxic, abusive relationship. You're dating someone who you probably shouldn't, or you should take a break from, or you know, and that's what it is. And look, dude, I think everyone who's a wrestling fan, because for a lot of people, WWE is the wrestling. That's what it is. It's like Band-Aids, no, you know, or Wi-Fi. You know, you only know the brand. But I guarantee you, everybody listening, either on the radio, on the podcast, on YouTube, which we all really appreciate, by the way, please do like and subscribe. I'll leave your comments on what I'm going to say now. I guarantee everybody listening right now has had a break watching wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Every single person now has been like, yeah, I just left, stopped watching for a couple of years and then came back. And my answer is why? Why? Why did you stop watching wrestling? And I think it's a couple of reasons, and I'll let you in a second, Christopher. I think one, it's mainly because there's no off season. Like, I am really, really, really counting the days down for when hockey starts again, right? Because you know, I can't wait to watch it again because there's an off season. And 2, it's because of burnout. You get sick of the predictability, and I'm just talking about WWE here specifically. You get sick of the predictability. You get sick of just the, oh, well, I'm going to do whatever I want anyway. I don't care. And it just has these different elements that you just get sick of. And I think it hits everyone in a different way. For me, my big break was 2003 to about 2005-ish. One Night Stand brought me back. But I started watching TNA then because I just can't stand WWE right now. I just don't want to watch it. What was it for you?
Excuse me. For me, it was when I deployed back in 03. I watched it religiously all through the Attitude Era, all that stuff. But when I deployed in 03, and you don't watch something for a while, you tend to just forget it exists. Like, oh, and then got home, got settled, just what it is what it is. And then I moved back to Texas from California, and my brother was like, hey, we're going to go to, little plug, to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the wrestling show. And I went, oh yeah, I forgot about wrestling. And it was the year that Cena had the surprise number 30 entry to Madison Square Garden for the Rumble. That was my introduction. I knew who people were. I knew who Triple H was, obviously. I knew who John Cena was and all that. I just wasn't watching. It was still a part of the culture that I was still part of. And that was the first show that drew me back in. I think it was 2008 Royal Rumble, where Cena was number 30. My brother was upset because he is such a Cena hater that he legit was like, I just want to go home now. Like, no, I want to see who wins this match. You know who is going to win. It's going to be John Cena. I'm like, whoa, okay, that's cool. And that just pretty much brought me back in again, was just that. And I've always been not maybe a fan of the Cena character, but what he does outside for the kids, for the military. I respect that, and I will give him his flowers every chance I get.
It's funny because I think a lot of people who are probably on a comment below are like, that's when I left, when Cena was pushed. Cena wins, lol. But then again, that perspective is so interesting because it's like I said, you were in the military, you got to see all that stuff Cena was doing. Obviously, all the Make-A-Wish stuff. I think everybody was like, yeah, well, we're not gonna hate on you for that, So yeah, but I just think everybody just has that moment, and I do think absent makes the heart grow fonder, right? So, there is something to be said, and I've been saying this for years. Do have an off season with WWE. You don't need to do a show every week. That's kind of it makes no sense. Just be like, okay, from like WrestleMania to SummerSlam, just don't play anything. But obviously you can't because you have sponsors, you have all that kind of stuff. But again, if Major League Baseball does fill that gap for a lot of sports fans. Now, obviously we don't watch it here, but when hockey, basketball, football ends, you have this, right? The World Cup is happening right now when soccer is on. Here's what I'm proposing, or an idea that they could do. Do something like that. Instead of having your regularly scheduled professional sports exist, instead of having your regularly scheduled product, talking TNA, WWE, AEW, whatever, come up with something like a World Cup. Come up with something like the Trios World Cup is starting this week, where it's trios going against each other for a cup. Do something interesting where it's the best of the best together, and they're putting out a new product where it's just for those 2 months, it doesn't really mean anything. They do it every year, every couple of years. And I think that would freshen up. If you really have to wrestle, do that. Do something interesting like that. But personally, I wouldn't be opposed to they just do reruns, or they do best ofs, or they do like something like, we're going to relive this summer of this or whatever, because with very few exceptions, anything that really happens from this time period until SummerSlam does not matter. I don't think you're going to have anybody looking back in 10 years going, oh, that Sami Zayn run, it made wrestling, I don't think anybody's going to have, like, with very, very few exceptions, there hasn't been any big red hot things that happen between Mania and SummerSlam.
And I'm looking on my desk. I have my only John Cena figure that sits on my desk, and it reminded me, you were talking about, taking time off and doing tournaments and stuff like that. We haven't heard anything about the John Cena tournament that he announced, 3-4 months ago?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Nothing about that.
It's gone.
Are they thinking that we forgot? We're not going to do that now, or are they just wait until the beginning of next year, make it like a WrestleMania thing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
that's good. Literally,
They're looking at my John Cena figure going, yeah, didn't you talk about a tournament? We haven't got that yet.
See, and again, I would love people's comments on that. Like, if you're going to do, that's when you could do your Forbidden Door kind of thing. And I think Tony Khan he's kind of touching that idea. Like, it's weird because when you think about when that show is, it's always in this July, August kind of time period. And he almost accidentally has figured out the answer, which is having exhibition months. And there's no reason why WWE, AEW, TNA, etc. couldn't like sign contracts where they're like, look, we'll just book this. We'll just have matches and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like a tournament, like again, a World Cup or an All Stars thing where it's just like everybody gets to draft stars from like a pool, and then they put something together. Like, that would be really cool. Again, it's probably a logistical, contractual, and creative nightmare, but at the same time, that would be the coolest thing ever. And then by the time it's done, everybody is like, okay, we're ready to give everyone a month off to heal up or whatever. And then you go back to your normal year. And I do think wrestling, it probably will happen eventually. Wrestling should just be seasons. For whatever their main big show is, the end of the year, that's when it ends and it resets.
Yep.
Because it is kind of like that anyway. But there's no reason now other than ego that they don't do that. And I hope wrestling gets to a point where it is like a professional sport. Like right now, again, as I said, in the hockey world, you have all-star games going on. A lot of it's off season. You have like Three Ice World Cup, which is like people from around the world playing threes hockey. They do testimonials. Soccer, I think, do the same thing. And I just don't see why wrestling is so rigid on this, particularly when it just burns people out. I guarantee you, if you did something like that, fan base would increase. People wouldn't get sick of it because they're like, oh man, I can't wait to watch wrestling again. Like, I'm pretty sure, again, everybody listening here has sat there going, oh Christ, I have to watch wrestling this week. And it's a punishment for some people. It's crazy.
If you're a content creator, you're like, man, I gotta watch Raw tonight. It's been so boring lately. Yeah, I totally get that because I've been down that road too.
Like, again, the opportunity came up to go see SummerSlam this year, and I was kind of going, oh god. Like, I'll be honest with you, the best thing about going to SummerSlam was doing the podcast after it for me, because I was like, hey, at least it won't be a complete waste of time and money. But now, because they've changed it up a little bit, and there is that element of, oh, whoa, I actually don't know what's going to happen here. Now I'm excited. It's a strange dynamic. And I think wrestling, because of certain things that have been away from Vince McMahon, the change of ownership, the growing landscape where we're moving away from TV and it's more streaming, more online, I think it will get there by itself. But and again, it's funny because Tony Khan has almost actually figured it out by accident. Forbidden Door is how you do the off season for wrestling, in my opinion. That's what a wrestling off season should be. Or let the guys heal. That's a good one too. I'm pretty sure no one would say no to that, right? But at the same time,
I know I would.
yeah, right, for sure. Like, you give them a month or two off. But I do think, for me, Forbidden Door is the future of wrestling. That's what it looks like. That's the off season, and that's the way they should do it. Well, Christopher, we have hit time, sir. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Sure. First up, it's 68 days until football season starts over here, so looking forward to that. You loving hockey over there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we talked about this before. The Real Zodiac Productions. It has both my podcast, the Jazz Zodiac podcast, as well as the Real Movie Critics. Both are on that channel. You can also find it on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast. Just like, subscribe, follow the show, leave us a comment. We are currently at 78 subscribers. I want to get us up to 100 by maybe SummerSlam. So, sub, it's free. Help me out. We'll give you love, I promise.
And again, we won't be doing a post show here for SummerSlam, but we will be doing it on that channel. So,
yeah.
I link it below. If you guys are listening on Phoenix FM, go over to Nerdfilm Media on YouTube. You can find all the links to everything, including Christopher's channel. They do a lot of really good content. It's worth your time. They stream a lot more than we do. So absolutely do check that out. And we'll be back next week to talk about all this crazy stuff in the world of professional wrestling. For myself, for Christopher, for everybody at Nerd to Know Media, we will talk to you here on the Wrestling Rewind, Phoenix 92.5 FM.
You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.